So what I get a sense of is the most highlighted and potent energy for this week is this Jupiter that is going to be coming direct approximately midweek-ish. And I go into that in more detail in this video. Just a reminder that this is a mundane reading and not at all an all signs or sun sign forecast. I do not do just simple all sign or sun sign forecasts. All right, so let's jump into the chart here, and we'll start off the week here, obviously on Sunday, March 8th. Top of my list here is we're going to have Mercury retrograde in Quintile to Uranus. Okay, let me just kind of give a tune in here. There's something signifying about change. It feels a bit like maybe economic change. This is about like this reworking or going over, rethinking aspect of Mercury retrograde, but it's surrounding what has been brought to light, what has been uncovered. Remember, this Mercury retrograde is in Pisces. We're dealing with this aspect of what's hidden, that aspect of deception, etc. Okay, and I feel with this quintile too is that what's been hidden behind the scenes, really, and this is driving this aspect of change, and in a lot of ways it seems like economic change in some way here with this. It almost, this deals a lot with behind the scenes hidden kind of an energy, like I said, as it relates to that retrograde, but also that quintile itself. But there's an aspect of this economic change and progress that is needed to be made here with going over this old ground and these realizations, etc. We're also going to have Venus here in conjunction to Saturn. Now, I go through this very quickly because I get the guidance based on how do I put this? The strongest possible outcome based off of these aspects, okay? Now, obviously, everyone has free will, so this is always subject to change. There's multiple ways in which this can express, but I get the strongest one that is viable as I do this reading, because if I were to go into everything, this video would be like 5 hours long. Look, I ain't got that time, okay? And nobody's going to sit here and watch it for that long. So that's why I do this. I just get to the point of what the aspect is and then move on. Again, I do this as a mundane reading. This isn't any kind of multiple things for multiple people or whatever. You want a personal reading? Get a personal reading, because that's going to be the most accurate for you. Anyway, moving on. We're going to have Venus in conjunction to Saturn. Okay. This feels like this feels like restrictions of people, but it's like ousting of certain people. Okay, in terms of that restricting it and ousting certain people. This feels like it could be politically, it feels like it could be on like a higher known level, whether it's like a politically celebrity, like that kind of a thing, like people that are in the spotlight that were known, whether they're some aspect of the control structure of the world or some type of influencer, whether it's like traditional in a traditional sense, as in like a celebrity, or in whatever other way. Okay, now this energy of Aries is basically this masculine energy that's doing the crackdown on this and really pushing the action towards this restriction of these people, and ultimately they saying, no, you can't do this kind of a thing, and ousting them in whatever way. That's what I feel with this energy here. Okay, we're also going to have Mars here in this semisextile to Pluto. I feel like this is related to what I just said, as Mars rules Aries. I was kind of getting an inkling of this already before, when I saw it on the list here before I went into this, but this is taking this action step. And again, Mars is in Pisces. I'm being drawn to the fact that we're relating to this deception and taking action towards, how we've been deceived, etc. Taking proper action steps. And with that, Venus conjunct Saturn there, restricting certain people or like holding them accountable, that kind of stuff in relation. But with this semisextile to Pluto, this is really pushing for that transformation and change and progress. It's like this is whatever has been brought to light, and I'm feeling like it's relating to, of course, the Epstein files, among other things that are occurring surrounding this time frame. It's not just that. There's other things that are likely coming out as well, possibly surrounding the Epstein files or in other ways, whether it's on the higher global mundane level or even maybe so in our own lives. But if you want, and again on your own personal level, you need to get a personal reading as to how specifically this would affect you. Okay? Now, yes, it's taking action step towards those things. Okay, I guess we're done with that one. So we're also going to have Juno here in Sesquisquare. Where are we? Sesquisquare to the south node, and in this, there we go, Semisquare to the north node. I'm like trying to see it through all the different aspects there. Okay, so this is relating to these partnerships and contracts that I feel like were restrictive, were controlling, that were commitments made back in the day, okay, with certain people with an island possibly. Now, or relating to that. Now, what I've sensed with this Sesquisquare is this is a very strong letting go of that stuff, of those partnerships, of those contracts, of those things, and a release of what we once thought was practical, the practical use of that stuff and how it fit into our world, because that was a very disgusting use of what those things were. And of course, this can relate to other things as well, maybe not just specifically, the person with the island, okay? And the semisquare to the north node is obviously pushing us in a new, albeit unknown direction, because as these commitments and partnerships begin to crumble and fall, we need to land on something new. However, a lot of these things were what was running our world previously. And because of that, we're heading in a direction which is unknown because we don't know any different, all right? At least in our current lifetimes. Now, but that unknown isn't bad, because what I get a sense of is there are people that do know what it is. They're just working behind the scenes in a lot of ways to help. And this feels like a very positive direction in moving forward. Okay? Like I said, there's a positive energy really driving a lot of the revelations and the change and stuff that is occurring right now. So don't listen to like the naysayers or those that are trying to instill a lot of like negative fear about, there's going to be all these wars or all these things. A lot of that is trying to distract you, and they're trying to maintain control by pushing for a lot of these old negative things like fighting and war and division and all of that to maintain their control. But it's not, what I get a sense of is it's not aligned with the direction that has already been set for us in terms of the amount or the immense amount of positive help that we're getting that is likely unknown to a lot of people that we're just not seeing. And so they're trying to use those negative things to distract you because you don't know the truth of what actually is and has been going on. Okay? And through that, trying to keep the division and the control and all of that in place. But again, that's not going to be allowed because of what I said. There's so much of this positive frequency, you could say, now in place that negative stuff, it can't hold a candle to what the positive is, and it's going to just keep, the negative stuff is just going to keep falling apart. They're going to keep floundering because the more light and positivity there is, the more light it shines upon this dark stuff to be uncovered and revealed and ultimately just gone, right? Because it can't maintain itself within that positive frequency, right? They're dissonant. They don't work together. So, and because the positive has now become more powerful, this negative stuff has to fall away. All right. We're also going to have here Mercury retrograde in a trine to Jupiter retrograde, about to go direct. So Jupiter is close to being stationed here. Okay, now I get a sense of like preparation for this. I feel like this, because when Jupiter is going to go direct this week, I feel a sense of preparation for this. Mercury is also retrograde. This has brought certain stuff up. This Jupiter retrograde has brought certain stuff up, or things that are coming back to us. I said this Jupiter retrograde was stuff that's coming back to us. And in a lot of ways, I feel like it's the truth, it's our power, it's our sovereignty, it's bringing us, what I get a sense of as I say that is bringing us back to a more comfortable world. But through that, you have to release what is uncomfortable. Okay? Now, I feel like this Mercury retrograde and this awakening that is being brought on by this revealing of how we've been deceived, etc., in Mercury shadow, and even prior to this, but also during the retrograde, to have a relook at a lot of this stuff, is preparing for whatever this Jupiter direct is going to be. Okay? And I'm just going to leave it at that for now, maybe until we get to this Jupiter coming direct, because it feels big to me for whatever reason. So that's Sunday the 8th. Let's move on to Monday the 9th. Of course, this is when we're going to have Black Moon Lilith here, basically in square to the nodes. So square to the south node, square to the north node. What I get a sense of with this is, again, as it relates to maybe the Epstein files or something about that, something that has been uncovered in terms of where we've been outcasted as a people globally, like how we've been screwed. Because when you look at the network that Epstein had in terms of political global leaders and celebrities and all that stuff, internationally, we've all been fucked by it, right? So we've all been outcasted, as we've basically been treated like the peasant class, while these rich elite assholes do very bad things, almost relating to how a traditional ancient kingdom would have functioned, whereas the royal family, who are assholes, kept all the shit to themselves and did abusive things to people, while the peasants lived in basically shit. All right, and that's how we've in essence been treated, and that's what I get a sense of what this outcasted behavior is. But it's squaring the nodes, as in what we once thought was the old practical way that was really just for these certain people is being let go of, and then this new way moving forward and this new direction needs to be where we're being launched, right, where we need to move forward. And that's what I feel with this square, which in essence is a T-square, right? North node opposition south node. There's an opposition here in these two squares to Black Moon Lilith. How we've been outcasted. Well, we need to get rid of the one way in order to be able to move to another, right? So there's this T-square happening that's really pushing for this. Let's go ahead. And I'm kind of being drawn to the fact that to make this a grand cross, you would need a planet here in Gemini. Now, interestingly enough, we have Uranus's north node here in opposition to this Black Moon Lilith. And of course, Uranus and Taurus, what I'm getting a sense of is this relates to economically money, how this money is used. These billionaires obviously had all this money, they're using it in this negative way, and how there's some aspect of maybe economic change or something surrounding this and how this can be used. But ultimately what I get with this as well is change going forward, as this would complete that T-square in terms of letting go of what once was practical and moving forward in a new direction in whatever way. Now, of course, Uranus is in Taurus, so this is relating to economic or material things in whatever way. Or what I get a sense of as well, what I feel is more of like a physical reality kind of a thing that needs to shift and change with that, and no longer put us in a place of being outcast, as in getting rid of these old systems and pushing forward in a new direction. Okay, so there is that T-square, but also as it relates to that grand cross energy with that north node, or Uranus's north node in Gemini. But what this also relates to, as this is in the sign of Gemini, we're going to have this aspect of awareness, of communication, of bringing things to light, more to light in a lot of ways, to shake things up and create that aspect of change, to make that adjustment of letting go of what we need to let go of and moving forward in a new, albeit unknown direction, as I've talked about before. Okay, so that is Monday the 9th. Let's move on to Tuesday the 10th here. And of course, this is when we're going to have Jupiter coming direct. It's not going to happen until about 9:36 p.m. Central, so it's still showing retrograde in this chart. Okay, now let me just this feels big. It feels, I get a sense of like coming home. It feels big, like we're coming home in some way. And I get a sense of whatever that comfort was that maybe is coming back to us. But and also what I'm getting as well is stuff happening on the home front. And that is wherever you are in the world. Okay? But I get a sense of this feels very big. I'm being drawn to the fact that Black Moon Lilith is in Jupiter's sign of Sagittarius, where we've been outcasted, but it's like coming home, coming back to what I get a sense of is a more positive place. Okay? And yeah, it just feels very big and expansive, and like this is very much going to be affected on a global scale. But it's coming home, but it's going to be almost like unique to each part of the world in whatever way that is. Or we're no longer going to feel maybe outcasted in a certain way by what I feel is with these Epstein files, but it's also could be in a similar way that it could be either related to that or in a similar sense, but a different situation. Okay, is what I get a sense of with this. All right, so yeah. We're also going to have Venus here in sextile to Pluto. I get very much a change and transformation in regarding this aspect of people again. And how it relates to our sovereignty and independence, but it's people that are more supporting of that are coming and more so coming into play to push and transform the world forward and make progress forward in a new direction. That's what I get with that. We're also going to have the Sun here in Semisquare to Pluto as well. This I feel like is more this aspect of like revelations or things coming to light again that are leading to this positive transformation and progress and moving forward. Either more stuff coming out or this illuminating of this previous stuff that is going on that is really pushing for this transformation and change and progress and moving forward in a lot of ways. Okay, we're also going to have Juno here in square to Chiron. What I get a sense of is these old controlling partnerships and commitments and contracts that are like of the old world. And again, I get a sense of this relates to the Epstein files. Again, this stuff isn't going away. This Mercury retrograde is keeping us in this space for this stuff to be revealed, and make sure that we see this so that this shit does not fucking happen again, ever. Okay? And it's making us aware of this deception, and it is throwing it in everybody's face, or keeping us in that space, because it's not like the mainstream media is doing it. There's some stuff out there, yes, but look through other means and other ways, and you can even go and look and see for yourself as to what that deception actually is. So maybe you have to look in alternative media sources or on YouTube or in other places to actually see what is really going on surrounding this stuff, because you can't trust a lot of the mainstream sources that we're seeing that now, because those mainstream sources are run by the pedo billionaires that were on this dude's island. Okay, so anyway, yeah. But what I get a sense with this square is that those controlling partnerships and committed partnerships in that sense that were committed to aspects of control, etc., hurt the sovereignty and independence of everybody else in the world, because it was only those asshats that got their way and not everybody else. And that's what I feel is coming up with that, with this square to Chiron in whatever way here, the wounds to that are coming out, being released, being revealed, etc. through this, or at least things that are analogous to that or that are like that in other ways as well that are coming up on this higher level, either political scale, business scale, that global, that mundane scale that I'm talking about here with astrology, okay? Mundane astrology is stuff that deals with our mundane lives, as in politically, economically, business-wise. It's on the much larger scale of our reality, which is why I do this way, because if I were to just do like a regular, oh, this could mean this for you, or this could mean that for you, or whatever, first of all, people don't listen to what they need to hear in that sense. They pick the positive thing for themselves and be like, oh, this must be for me, I'm going to listen to this one. And then they don't actually pay attention to what they really need to pay attention of with in that reading, even though something could be meant for them. And it's also, there's many different directions in which that could go in, and it leads to a lot of confusion for a lot of people that don't really understand what astrology is, how it is used, etc. Because there's so much fucking bullshit out there that exists when it comes to astrology that is just a load of crap. Okay? It really just is. Because there's people that are putting so much generic crap out there just to get views and just whatever. If you see posts with a bunch of sparkly emojis and, oh, if this is Venus in your sign, this is it, chances are it's bullshit. Okay? I'm just going to put that out there. Alright? There's people out there that are trying to do this legitimately and get screwed over by the people that aren't. But anyway, and it leads to a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding and a lot of things too. Now, moving on, that's Tuesday the 10th. Let's move on to Wednesday the 11th here. This is when we're going to have this last quarter moon. So moon in Sagittarius, sun in Pisces. What I feel is a very strong aspect of expansion here. And I feel it relates to that Jupiter retrograde as well. Because, Jupiter going direct. So Jupiter was retrograde, now direct. So Jupiter is now direct. Jupiter obviously rules Sagittarius where the moon is. So this is a related energy here. And with that square to the sun in Pisces, we're dealing a lot with this growth and this expansion and this awareness of this deception and all. But it feels like a very positive, like expansive energy. You have to remember in traditional astrology, Jupiter also rules Pisces. But Pisces is also very expansive, but Pisces is a limitless expansive, limitless creativity, limitless potential, limitless anything kind of goes. It's very hard to navigate that energy in Pisces. Whereas Sagittarius is more of like higher level knowledge, higher level education, like if you want to relate it to human level, like university, or higher spiritual level knowledge, that kind of stuff. But it's very much more expansive in that way, as in to expand and grow your mind, or expand and grow your perspective, as in multiple different perspectives, instead of just the limitation of one or the limitation of mind, like in Gemini, its opposite sign. Whereas Pisces can be anything, and these two squaring together is this really expansive growth in a lot of these different ways. Okay, and what I get a sense of is through awareness, through understanding of what has been uncovered and what we are now learning and knowing and understanding through a lot of this. And I get a sense of this aspect of that higher level learning through understanding a lot of these things, maybe coming through with this as well. And that could be sensed on an emotional level here too. Okay, now we're also going to have Jupiter here in this Biquintile, where are we here, to Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius. Okay, so what I get a sense with this is it almost feels like celebration, as in it is expansion and growth away from this outcasted kind of behavior. In coming home and feeling comfortable in almost like being who we are, or who you are in whatever way, in however that fits, in whatever whatever perspective that is, right? I just talked about that with Sagittarius, those multiple different viewpoints, multiple perspectives that you can see, that expansiveness that exists within that, seeing those multiple different ways, multiple different visions. That visionariness also could be of Sagittarius, Jupiter as well. All right. And yeah, it just feels like very positive growth away from this outcasted behavior, but it's very much supported by that Lilith energy. That Lilith energy can be very positive, as it's very that, it's that strong aspect of ourselves that has been tossed away by that old world because it wanted to control us. But that power very strongly still exists within us, and it's about enabling or enhancing that power within us now as well through this positive transit. Now, this feels like we will see this, but it's also a bit more maybe so internally or internalizing or internally focused in terms of maybe that happiness or that emotion that we may feel that comes up with this kind of a thing. But yeah, that's that. We're also going to have Venus here. Where are we? In Quintile to Juno now as well. This oddly feels like aspects of new partnerships now, and contracts and commitments. It feels more positive again. After this Jupiter direct and whatever I was talking about there with that Jupiter by Quintile, Black Moon Lilith, there's like a more positive energy that now exists in whatever way here. And I feel like there's people that are involved in connecting, networking, and creating positive commitments, contracts, etc. on a more, we think of Capricorn maybe on a more foundational way, but on a more like positive, structured kind of a way that allows an aspect of independence and sovereignty within those partnerships and contracts, as Venus is in Aries, okay? And that's what I feel that relates to. Now, let's move on to Thursday, the 12th here. And on this day, we're just going to have Venus in this semisextile to Mars. Let me just see here. I get a sense of like angry people, to be honest. And this aspect of taking action, and it feels like towards like a positive, it feels very humanitarian, but I get that in the sense of maybe this more compassionate type of energy with Pisces. As it's taking action away from the deception, but being more compassionate in whatever way. But there's these angry people about what has occurred and wanting to take action in a new direction, in a new way, is what I sense with that. Sorry, whenever I deal with Pisces, sometimes things get a bit like, okay, what is going on here, kind of a thing. But anyway, that's Thursday the 12th. Let's move on to Friday the 13th here. Okay, and I'm not going to get into any superstitious things surrounding Friday the 13th. I just don't feel that that is honestly really a thing. Okay, I'm an astrologer. I go with what the energy is here. Okay, and how that relates. And if your Friday the 13th is bad, well, maybe how you're using this energy is not in the way that you should be using the energy, okay? Versus maybe somebody else who's had a better day or whatever. But again, it's ultimately based on your experiences, how this is being used for you, etc. Again, if you want to know how this is more personal to you, get a personal reading, link in the description. Or go to my website, mysticalmark.ca. Okay, anyway. We're going to start off here with Venus in quincunx to the south node and semisextile to the north node here. I'm just trying to... There's something about this quincunx that is just honestly weird. there is a sense of frustration. Okay, there's a sense of frustration in letting go of the old world, even though we need to let go of it. There's almost like a lot of people trying to hang on to what they know, but they don't realize the foundation that that was built on was not meant for our best interest at heart, and it isn't going to work for the intent that they're trying to put forward in some way with this semisextile to the north node here. I feel like there's a desire here to move in a new direction, but they're trying to carry forward certain aspects of what has been known, and it's not going to work that way. There's a frustration here in maybe realizing through this that it is not going to work that way, and that those old things and what we've deemed as practical simply just is not going to continue to work for us any longer in any way, shape, or form, because it can't. It just simply can't for the direction that we're actually going in. And what I get a sense of is that there's the people involved here that are beginning to kind of learn that lesson. If you want this aspect of sovereignty or this newness, etc., that the ways in which we have been doing it, you can't just end one part of it and then manipulate it into a new way. It's not going to work like that. It has to end entirely, and you have to create something that's completely new. And this is frustrating for them in this understanding of how to move forward, because that new direction forward then becomes completely unknown to them, and they don't like that because the unknown is scary. But this unknown actually isn't unknown in a lot of ways to a certain number of people. Okay, and we just need to honestly trust that. And again, with that Pisces energy as well, trust in that movement and that direction forward in a lot of ways as well with that. Okay, so we're also going to have Mars here, conjunct the North Node and opposite the South Node. I get this anger again, but it's this desire to move forward in this new direction, whether it be unknown or whatever the fuck it is. We don't care. We're moving in a new direction because of the bullshit that we've had to put up with for so fucking long. We're not fucking doing it anymore. And that's what I feel with this energy, especially with this opposition to the South Node. I don't give a shit how fucking practical the old world was. I'm not fucking doing it. That's what I feel from this energy and this action step to move forward in the new direction. Even if we have no idea where the fuck we're going, we don't care. We're going in that direction because it's got to be a hell of a lot better than the bullshit that we've had to fucking put up with already. That's what I get with that energy, and it's a very strong, intense, okay? As you can tell from my words. Also, on this day, we're going to have Venus in trine to Black Moon Lilith here. Okay, so Venus in trine to Black Moon Lilith. We'll just get a sense of this. What I get a sense of is supportive people, in a sense of those who have been outcasted. And to me, it actually feels like the global population in a lot of ways. There is now supportive people being involved that are representing this idea of sovereignty and freedom for the people in a lot of ways, in terms of this energy and going forward, is what I feel with that. Okay, so that is Friday the 13th. Let's move on to Saturday the 14th here. Okay, so we're going to have now this Mercury retrograde in Semisquare to Juno. Okay. We're getting a sense of what these old contracts were that were meant for control, that were meant for a lot of these things. And we're figuring out, through going over these old spaces and old things, how to move away from them, how to deal with them, how to move away from them. And what I get a sense of is honestly do things on our own without these previous commitments, etc., that were required for that old world in order for it to function and behave. Okay. We're also going to have Mars here in square to Black Moon Lilith. I get this outrage energy again based on how people have been outcasted, etc. in a lot of ways throughout the world. I feel like it's not just related to the Epstein files. I feel like this is in a lot of other ways as well. Whereas how governments have treated people, how certain maybe institutions or businesses or etc. Maybe not, well, yeah, institutions, businesses, etc. have treated people, that kind of stuff. And because there's an awareness of the deception now. These companies, these people, these politicians, these elite, whoever you want to call them, they can't hide anymore. There's no more hiding. It's impossible to hide now. You can't. It just doesn't happen anymore. And this outrage is still going to exist, and it's forcing action to be taken on rectifying, outcasting these other people in a lot of ways. Okay? That's what I get with that. We're also going to have Mercury retrograde here in this semisextile to Venus. What I get a sense of is this is going over this old ground again and revealing the or how certain people have deceived others in a lot of ways for their own benefit, instead of allowing that sovereignty or the independence, whatever, of the other people as well. They did it in a very self-centered and narcissistic kind of a way. Okay? That's what I get with that. We're also going to have Mars here in Semisquare to Chiron. I feel that this is actually a lot more positive and taking, positive action. So pay attention to what I'm saying. If I'm burping here, it's usually some kind of a sign. Positive action being taken to rectify these wounds inflicted upon what I get a sense of is everyone, in terms of our independence, our sovereignty, our freedom, etc., in whatever way. Interesting way to end the video and end the week. So let me bring it back to me here. If you've made it this far in the video, please leave a purple heart in the comments so that I know you're a real one, and thank you so much for watching. If you do in any way want to have this personalized for you, you can of course get a personal reading with me. You can head on over to mysticalmark.ca, or the individual reading links are in the description below. And of course, I have a new section of my website called Legitimacy and Corroboration, where I take basically the transcription of these astrology videos, and I use that using AI to take basically what I've said in the videos and go out and find the news articles and other sources related to what I've said regarding the astrology for the week, to provide that aspect of maybe more grounded legitimacy to what I am saying in these videos, because I understand I do this in a bit of a unique way and different way, doing this intuitively, using the foundation of astrology, but understanding the spiritual component to it and not just the mental aspect to it. And I want to provide a sense of legitimacy to it, that yes, it can be done in this way, and this is, honestly, in my opinion, a more appropriate way to be doing astrology, and not just the mental game of using certain patterns or signs to try to almost make things up or assume certain things are going to happen based on whatever, because there's so many ways or directions in which a lot of things can go with astrology. Just because a sign, like for example, a certain sign can mean a different number of things, but what specifically could it mean for a specific person or a specific event or whatever, or how it would be used in maybe a different way. Again, if you look at my work on my website, check out my website or in other places, you know exactly what I'm talking about. With all that being said, I think I have anything else to say, so thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in next week's video. Take care, everyone. Bye for now. Bye.